Namaskar, everybody. I am Dr. K.K. Agarwal, President, Heart Care Foundation of India. We are going to start live in 5 minutes, and we are waiting for Dr. Patwardhan to join. In the meantime, I welcome Dr. Arvind Chopra. I'm always in happy because there are already 134 people who are live, who are waiting for us to talk. So I use this extra 4 minutes to interact with Dr. Arvind Chopra. Tell me something about you.
Thank you very much, sir. First, it's such an honor to share this webinar with you. और आप तो गुरु हैं, तो पहले तो गुरु जी को प्रणाम और I'm looking forward to sharing this webinar with Bhushan, who is a very dear friend. For almost 30 years, we have worked together in several research projects, and some of them have been about Ashwagandha, which we are going to be talking this evening. And so maybe I should share with you, sir, that I am a graduate and postgraduate product of Armed Forces Medical College, Pune. And after having served Armed Forces for 11 years, I took premature retirement.
In which year you joined?
1972.
1972. Okay, good. And after that, what did you do?
And then I joined the army for 11 years. I was posted to some field areas in Assam, came back to FMC for my post-graduation. Then I was posted to teach in the Department of Medicine of FMC for about 2.5 years. Did one posting in military hospital, Belgaum as a specialist. Took premature retirement and went for rheumatology training. I spent some time in Australia for that purpose. Came back to Pune, and that's where I set my rheumatology practice at a center where I'm doing practice, my academics, my research.
So how you got interested in Dr. Bhushan, Nilesh? How you got interested in Ayurveda and other things? Yes, kindly join there.
ये भी एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग हादसा था.
One second, just hold on. Nilesh, yes, go ahead.
And आपने बहुत ही इम्पोर्टेंट और इंटरेस्टिंग पूछा है. इसलिए इम्पोर्टेंट है कि as you are aware, so that most of us went to MBBS and MD without any knowledge about Ayurveda. Except that we are aware that some of our seniors were prescribing Ayurvedic medicines, but we also prescribed in diseases like hepatitis and other diseases where we had limitation, not medicine. ये limitation का बाद में हुआ. So when I was in the AFMC, Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan, he was in the University of Pune, and he came around looking for some, I would say, young physician who would help him in setting up a project on validation of Ayurvedic medicines. So that's the beginning. I had no idea. So he approached me. Somebody had told him, and that's why I met him. I think it was in 88 or something, 1988. And my learning of Ayurveda started. My first and foremost job was to answer a question in a meeting after a few months. Subject was, can Ayurveda be delivered in a capsule? So I started my, I would say, interest in Ayurveda with that particular question, with my readings and literature review. And over a period of time, I got involved with so many projects, sir. And then being a rheumatologist, my primary interest is in autoimmune disorders, osteoarthritis, and all the other diseases that I see in rheumatology. Then I got myself involved with some serious mechanistic studies as well. I also do a lot of epidemiology. I am the WHO's coordinator for Asia Pacific region in a program called COPCOT, Community-Oriented Program for Control of Rheumatic Disease. The working community gave me a chance to know about Ayurveda at a community level as well, and meet many, I would say, Ayurvedic Vaidyas who serve the community at the grassroots level. So the interest kept on increasing.
We are still trying for Dr. Patwardhan to join, and he just called up. He is not been able to connect, so he's waiting, and so. So, how well you started studying about Ayurveda apart from trials like
Yes,
philosophy of Ayurveda and Vedas?
yes, sir. I mean, my major limitation has been that I don't know Sanskrit. Without knowing Sanskrit, you really cannot enjoy and go into the depths of Ayurveda. But fortunately, there are many translations available, and some of the Sanskrit shlokas I could understand from some very good Ayurvedic friends. Some of them are here sitting with me today morning. So basically, I focused myself on rheumatology in Ayurveda, so that I
Hmm.
could understand how to overcome the gaps in modern medicine and how Ayurveda can fill those gaps.
Hmm.
तो वहां से ये शुरू हुई और चलते चलते अब ये कोविड-19 तक पहुंच गए, जो कि मेरा एक्चुअली विषय नहीं है, बट एज यू नो सर, वी गेट पुल्ड एंड पुश्ड इनटू मेनी डोमेन्स which we don't think
तो
of.
अगर हम लोग देखें इसमें कोविड-19 में we are having hyperimmune inflammation.
Yes.
We are having high ESR, we are having high ferritin and high CRP, which indicates there is a hyper-inflammatory immune response,
Absolutely.
which is also precipitating thrombosis, causing high fibrinogen and high D-dimer.
Yes.
So, in somehow or other, in some way, it is a autoimmune reaction. Whether you call autoimmune, but I'm talking about acute immune response, which it is causing. And so therefore, in terms of Ayurveda, we'll discuss about it. How can it be classified when Dr. Patwardhan starts? And number two is, unfortunately or unfortunately, it is sparing the joints. It is not causing joint inflammation. Otherwise, it would have been difficult for us to differentiate it in the rainy season with chikungunya and other things. So it
Chikungunya is a theory of a viral disease.
it is sparing the joints, and it is also sparing the voice box. So it is not causing laryngitis, and it is sparing the joints, so it is not causing joint pain, though it is causing muscle ache and it is causing body ache. But yes, it is. If somebody asks me, I will classify it as an acute autoimmune disorder, not that autoimmune, but it is causing rise in acute phase reactants, and it is also causing a HIV-like reaction because it is reducing lymphocytes and CD4 counts, and something like we used to get in lepromatous leprosy, we used to get acute lepromatic reaction. That's something like it is presenting as acute cytokine crisis. We don't know. Once all of us start discussing, we will try to find out, can we find out a trigger in COVID? Ashwagandha will be a part of discussion, but my interest will be, can we find out a trigger of seriousness? Like in modern medicine, the trigger is hypoxia. Okay. So once a patient gets hypoxia, which is silent, and that silent hypoxia causes acute cytokine crisis, it precipitates immune inflammation, it precipitates thrombotic inflammation. So everything it precipitates. So maybe if we can find out in Ayurvedic philosophy, yes. Hello, Dr. Patwardhan, how are you?
Hi, good evening, Bhushan.
Yes. So everybody, we have been chatting with Dr. Arvind Chopra for a couple of minutes, and it's unfair for me not to chat with Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan before we start. Okay. So tell us, how did you get in touch with Arvind Chopra? He told me how he got in touch with you. Your voice is not coming. Yes, Dr. Bhushan. It will be more of a good educational and informal chat because we are also live on Facebook. We are also live on for the doctors. and we are also live on YouTube. So it will be a mix of discussion in such a way we really spread the message of the basics of Ayurveda and basics of Ashwagandha. Bhushan, something about you. Why did you choose to become an Ayurvedic top physician of the country? Why not homeopathy and why not modern medicine? आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही. नहीं, आवाज नहीं आ रही. ऋतु देखेंगे इनकी. आपकी आवाज नहीं आ रही. आपको अपना ऋतु देखेंगे इनकी आवाज नहीं आ रही.
सर का माइक ठीक नहीं है.
You will have to check your mic, Dr. Patwardhan. You will have to check your mic. नहीं, you will have to check your mic. उनके mic में. Let me talk to him on my phone. My phone is with you. Am I audible? मैं नहीं कर सकता ना. मैं कैसे करूँगा? मैं तो वहाँ से होगा ना. ये तो करेगा. You can make a share. नहीं कर सकता. Yes, till he joins, let's continue, Dr. Chopra. Let's continue our discussion with that. So as soon as he joins, we will straight away join with what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about how does a modern medicine doctor understands Ayurveda. And then we will come back to Dr. Bhushan and talk about the basics of Ayurveda. And then I'm going to come back with a possibility of that how COVID can be a bridge between Ayurveda and modern medicine. And then we talk about why Ashwagandha and at what stage of disease Ashwagandha should work. Yes, Bhushanji, are you? आपकी आवाज नहीं. Yes, can you speak?
Girish, what would be the cause?
जोर से बोलिए, भूषण जी. भूषण जी, आपको मेरी आवाज सुनाई दे रही है? Let his issue be sorted out. So in the meantime, there are a couple of questions which have come on. People are asking, and doc, please let me know from 2 teeth when I get my bed, my head spins extremely fast. So इंद्रजीत कोहली जी, जो आप बोल रही हैं कि आप बिस्तर पे जाती हैं तो मेरा सर चकराता है जोर से और मुझे सपोर्ट लेनी पड़ती है. इसे हम पोस्चुरल वर्टाइगो बोलते हैं. And this is a postural vertigo. So hello, sir. So till Dr. Patwardhan starts, let me start interacting back with Dr. Arvind Chopra. So and we will talk about the Ayurvedic concepts when Dr. Bhushan starts. So we will directly straight away start with Ashwagandha. What is your experience of Ashwagandha in rheumatological disorders?
Thank you, sir. I have a short presentation. If you permit me, I'll just go through a few slides to highlight a few concepts from rheumatology.
Kindly go ahead. Kindly go ahead.
So, good evening, friends. It's a pleasure to be here.
You can share your screen.
Hanji.
Ritu, kindly have him share the screen. Kindly have him share the screen.
Can you see my first slide?
Ritu, can we share the slide?
Hello. Yes, sir.
Can you see my slide?
Yes, go ahead.
So good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to be here this evening talking about ashwagandha in the COVID-19 era. So to begin with, I'd like to share with you some of my experience from my uh, uh, research projects in rheumatology. I deal with various disorders of the joints and spine, both inflammatory, non-inflammatory. And I'll be picking up rheumatoid arthritis as an example, where I would like to highlight some of the learnings of ashwagandha. I must share with you that I'm a modern medicine physician. I'm a rheumatologist. My research interest is in Ayurveda is primarily to do drug trials and do mechanism of actions and study the interaction between rheumatology in Ayurveda and rheumatology in modern medicine. I do not practice Ayurveda. I've been a principal investigator for several studies. What I'm going to present uh, is about Ayurvedic formulations as plant extracts. I'm not going to present any clinical data on fractions or part of the plant. Everything that I say will pertain to the whole plant extract, whether it's aqueous or whether it's alcohol. So in my very first experience, which was way back in 1996, this was set up with Mass General Hospital in US. This was an Indo-American study. We chose to evaluate a Ayurvedic formulation which contained ashwagandha, gugul, shunti, that is ginger, and haldi, which is turmeric. This formulation was basically conceptualized, uh, made, standardized, evaluated both in the laboratory and animals by Professor Bhushan Patwardhan, who will be soon joining us. So this formulation was handed over to us, and we made a standard rheumatoid arthritis protocol, and just the way we would look at modern medicine. This was my very first study where we wanted to actually see what kind of evidence do we have about Ayurvedic medicine's effectiveness or efficacy in this case. So this was a randomized, double-blind, placebo-controlled study in a large number of patients that you can see who were naive for any kind of disease-modifying anti-rheumatoid drugs, and they were all enrolled from the community. It's the intent to treat analysis. The name of the formulation was given as RA1. Now, this was a 12-week study. Some patients were allowed a small dose of steroids. Both the groups were very well matched, the RA1 and the placebo. At the end of the study, we could not find a statistically significant difference in the primary efficacy variable, which was a kind of an index improvement. But we could see that the Ayurvedic formulation was ahead of the placebo in every possible variable. The joint counts for pain tenderness, the joint counts for swelling, the global assessments by patient and physician, the pain measured on visual analog scale, HAC, which is Health Assessment Questionnaire, is a functional instrument, and the sedimentation rate. And we also found there was a significant effect on the rheumatoid factor, which is one of the biological key markers of rheumatoid arthritis. So, though we could not, though the study by the modern medicine standards was not successful, but there are enough clues to indicate that the Ayurvedic formulation was effective, much superior to placebo. So, beyond this, we did not. We went into a long 3-year study, which I did in Pune. Out of 180 to almost 165 patients agreed to continue beyond 3 months. And beyond 3 months, it's a 3-year study. This is perhaps the first study of its kind in the world where patients were told to continue their Ayurvedic medication, background medication for 3 years in a real to life clinical setting. But we rheumatologists could add disease modifying anti-rheumatoid drugs if the patients fled.
Yes.
Just to tell the summary, there's a lot of data, but I would like to come to the most critical part of the study. This is published in the Journal of Ayurvedic Integrative Medicine, a peer-reviewed journal. At the end of 3 years, we have enough data to demonstrate that the Ayurvedic drug could control rheumatoid arthritis at least in 30 to 40% of patients per se as monotherapy. There were patients who required methotrexate and or chloroquine. Some required intermittent steroids, but we could manage the rheumatoid arthritis very effectively for 3 years. There were no drug interactions. We have recorded several adverse events. There were no differences, significant differences. None of the patients in the RA1 Ayurvedic formulation ever left the study because of any adverse event due to drug. So to conclude, this was the very first experience where we could demonstrate that then a standardized Ayurvedic herbal formulation is an effective and safe anti-inflammatory and disease-modifying drug in the management of arthritis. This is also some kind of integrative medicine approach where we are demonstrating for the first time that one could use Ayurvedic medicines along with modern medicines in a very judicious manner. I come several years later, Bhushan and myself, we had an opportunity to design and execute a very big research project called Nimitli, which was in the earlier when in the government of late Shri Vajpayee ji. This was one of the flagship program of the government of some niche areas where India had an advantage. So in this new millennium Indian Technology Leadership Initiative, Ayurveda was also chosen as a domain. Amongst the target disorders in Ayurveda, arthritis was chosen to also explore and try and validate an Ayurvedic medicine for the treatment of arthritis for global use. That was a mandate given to us. Now, I will not go into the details, but this was a very well-designed program where several premier agencies, clinical and non-clinical agencies interacted, worked together, something like a Team India approach. It's a parallel development where we were doing clinical evaluations, filtering out, screening out several formulations, and trying to find the best formulation. We chose osteoarthritis and knee joint as the primary efficacy, but we also did some work in rheumatoid arthritis. So I present maybe two studies from this, several publications were there. My very first study in this military program was a 7-arm study, where we have used a Shunti Guduchi as a platform formulation and then added various other formulations which from an Ayurvedic perspective are known to work as anti-arthritis, anti-inflammatory. They can, some of them are immune modulators. I'll talk about them. So there was a 7-arm study comparing Ayurvedic formulations with glucosamine and placebo in symptomatic osteoarthritis knees. I want you to be focused on the formulation D, which is the main formulation. Then we added ashwagandha, videnia somnifera, it became E. And to this, we further added gokshur, as advised by the Ayurvedic physicians, that is formulation B. So the three formulations which contain ashwagandha, we'll only look at that. So when we looked at the D formulation, there was a reduction in pain VAS and improvement in pain and functions. When we look at E, which is Shunti Guduchi plus ashwagandha, there's a dosing effect. Better reduction in pain, more improvement in the function. And finally, when we talked about when we added Gokshu, that is B, we found that we had even a much superior effect. So it seems that for the first time we are able to see for ourselves that increase in the dose also improves the effect. One second. I'll just go back. Right. So these 7 arms, now you can see the reduction in pain VAS. We'll again focus only on D, which is the core formulation. Then we added ashwagandha, that becomes B, and you find no difference in both the groups. There's a signal reduction in pain. But when we added Goksha to ashwagandha, you can see the dramatic improvement, reduction in pain. These patients were not allowed painkillers. So this was an example or a demonstration over 4 months of very potent anti-pain effect and some counterprotective effect of ashwagandha. I take you to another study which we did during those days. There is not much data in the Ayurveda on the dosing effects. This was a study where we again used ashwagandha, that is B plus, and we increased the dose further to 2B plus. And I'm trying to show that there is a much better response when you increase the dose, but there's a limit to it. We know that we have also data to show that beyond some time, if you increase the dose, you don't get more clinical effect. My colleagues during that period have done a lot of laboratory studies. Here I just bring one example where my colleague Dr. Venil Sumantran, she did some very elegant studies in cell cultures. She did a chondrocyte cell culture in Bharatiya Vidyapeeth in Pune and showed that ashwagandha also has some protective effect in some patients. She also demonstrated that in some of the cell cultures there was no response. So obviously there is possibly two subsets of patients who donated these cells, that some respond and some don't respond, and some elegant experiments to show that ashwagandha could inhibit the gelatinase, which is an important enzyme, completely. Uh, in the end, I want to again talk about rheumatoid arthritis as part of NIMITRI program. This particular study, perhaps for the first time in published literature, showed that ashwagandha was as good or as bad as hydroxychloroquine sulfate, which we use in the treatment of rheumatoid arthritis as a disease-modifying anti-rheumatoid drug. In fact, the Ayurvedic formulation that we used here, the acronym was GAGS, GAGS. It was ashwagandha combined to shunti, ganduchi, and gokshu, the B formulation that you saw earlier. This was a 6-month study, open label study. Here we are comparing with another Ayurvedic formulation called AIP2, which is a proprietary formulation. At the end of 6 months, let me show you that patients of rheumatoid arthritis, symptomatic, active patients with rheumatoid factor positive, with erosions, with deformities, these patients showed a good effectiveness both with the Ayurvedic formulation and hydroxychloroquine. There were no differences, but the Ayurvedic formulation showed a better safety profile. So this itself generated a hypothesis that Ayurvedic medicines, even if they are as effective as modern medicines, certainly the side effect and the tolerability profile goes in favor. Friends, just want to stop this presentation now saying, those of you who perhaps like me, I was a skeptic long time back, there is a lot of stress in Ayurvedic classic literature that we need to validate results. This is one of the quotations from Charaka Samhita, which I read long time back. So, Dr. Agarwal, I'd like to stop here and again maybe go back to the presentation when we talk about COVID-19 and ashwagandha.
Thank you. Can I have all three of them in one chair? Can I have Dr. Patwardhan also here? Yes.
Yes. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Patwardhan, for joining here. And we have listened to Dr. Arvind Chopra because this program is a mixed program. And we have public, we have doctors, we have healthcare workers and Ayurveda. So I will interact with Dr. Patwardhan for 15-20 minutes to make everybody understand what Ayurveda is. That's first portion of that. So for people who are watching this program, I will explain in a modern medicine language what Ayurveda is, and Dr. Patwardhan will explain to you in Ayurvedic language what. According to Sankhya philosophy, which comes from Atharved, so we have 4 Ved, we have Rig Ved, Yajur Ved, Samved, and Atharved. Atharved is the last Ved of Vedic sciences. From there originates the Ayurved, which basically talks about the life and which talks about basically the science behind the life. And this is based on Sankhya philosophy, which talks about the 5 basic elements. It talks about 5 tanmatras and 5 basic elements. And the 5 basic elements are air, space, fire, water, and earth. In our modern medicine, we call them as movement, metabolism, and structure. So if I go to a cell I am made up of 6 trillion cells joined together with the Higgs boson. So at the level of elementary particles, each particle of mine is basically a combination of movement multiplied by metabolism multiplied by structure. This movement, metabolism, and structure, Ayurvedic people, movement, they call them as Vat. Metabolism, burning, they call them as Pitta. and structure they call them as cough. Kindly explain Vat Pitta Kapha little bit, Dr. Bhushan Purvardhan.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Agarwal. I must tell you that your Ayurveda is much better than what I know, because the way in which you explained, I also would not have been able to explain that much, And just for our listeners, I am not an Ayurvedic Vaidya. By training, I am a biochemist or a pharmaceutical biologist. So my work is in Ayurveda, but trying to understand what is the scientific basis of various Ayurvedic processes, various Ayurvedic concepts, and various Ayurvedic medicines. That's what I do. And what question you asked me in the beginning, what attracted me to Ayurveda? While I was doing my master's dissertation, I worked on a medicinal plant called Semicarpus anacardium or Bhallataka. That time I was working at Hafkin Institute in Mumbai, and we actually showed that this particular plant has a very good anti-cancer activity. But the moment we went on purifying it, the activity was lost, and we could not finally isolate a pure compound with anti-cancer activity. That gave me a lesson that in our own laboratory we should challenge our own results. I also observed that the toxicity of the material differs if you change the way in which you administer. The same material, when I administered using Ayurvedic way, it was non-toxic. Like when I gave it with a vehicle like peanut oil, it was non-toxic. But when I converted into a emulsion, then it was toxic. So these kinds of experiments actually triggered me, and we led to identify a pure molecule which was shown to be specific anaerobic inhibitor. We showed that at nanogram level, that also inhibits, or it has bactericidal activity against Clostridium tetani. So these earlier experiments, interested me to look at Ayurveda as a science. Followed by that, I realized at one point of time that looking at Ayurveda only from medicine point of view is not really correct, because Ayurveda is much more than herbal medicine. Ayurveda is not equivalent to herbal medicine. And so I started looking at the basic principles of Ayurveda. In year 2000, I hypothesized that Ayurvedic concept of Prakriti, what you really explained very well, it has connection with this Panchamahabhuta. And these Panchamahabhuta are further subdivided into dosha Prakritis, as Vat, Pitta, and Kapha. So I hypothesized that Ayurveda is a personalized medicine. And please remember, this hypothesis was done in year 2000 when human genome was just emerging. It was not there. And at that time, personalized medicine term also was not used. So we hypothesized, and Dr. Chopra, as he explained, we had a very good cohort of patients of rheumatoid arthritis, and all of us know rheumatoid arthritis and HLA-DRB relationship. So we decided to study in a blind study. We decided that Dr. Chopra's patient of rheumatoid arthritis, we will divide them into 3 groups blindly, and let Ayurvedic Vaidya classify them into Vat, Pitta, Kapha. And then we analyzed HLA-DRB1 gene polymorphism, and we showed that the allele distribution, there are 14 alleles of HLA-DRB1 gene, they are statistically differently distributed among Vat, Pitta, and Kapha. Now, this happens to be the first ever scientific evidence in support of traditional or Ayurvedic concepts of dosha prakriti. We presented this, my colleague Dr. Kalpana Joshi presented this work at Cold Spring Harbor Symposium on Pharmacogenomics in the US, and followed that, we published that in JSEM, our paper, which is a highest cited paper in JSEM, which talked about the polymorphism and which talk about genetic basis to Ayurvedic concept of Prakriti. So I will stop here at this point. I just tried to tell you that what my interest on Ayurveda was initially, how it was expanded to include not only Ayurveda as a medicine, but also Ayurveda as concept.
Thank you, Dr. Patwardhan. I'll again go back to clarify what Dr. Chopra and what Dr. Patwardhan has spoken in a modern medicine language. So this universe is not possible without a combination of 5 elements. And we always know yatha pinde tatha brahman. Whatever is microcosm is the macrocosm. Whatever is happening outside is happening in my body. So if my body is also made up of the 5 elements, and we call them as movement, metabolism, and structure. In Ayurveda, they call them as Vat, Pitta, Kapha, and in homeopathy, they call them as Sora, syphilis, and psychosis. These three elements in my body, they end up into 7 tissues. Now, these 7 tissues are Rasa, Rakta, Mamsa, Medha, Asthi, Majja, Shukra. In terms of modern medicine, Rasa is plasma. And we know whenever we eat food, it first becomes plasma or ras. And then this ras becomes Rakta, which is blood. Then from this blood is formed the Mamasa, which is muscle. After the muscle, we form adipose tissue, then bone marrow, and then the ojas or the immunity in our body. I'm asking this is because I want to correlate ashwagandha in COVID era. That's the reason I'm trying to talk about basics as I understand. Now there is an opportunity for Ayurveda and homeopath and modern medicine to work on COVID-19 because it's a new disease. So it's an opportunity for everybody to come forward about their theories. Nobody has an answer for that. Now, if I talk about Vat, there are 5 types of Vat. We have 5 types of Vayu. We have Prana Vayu, Udan Vayu, Saman Vayu, Vyan Vayu, and Apan Vayu. I'm going to concentrate only on 2, and that is Prana Vayu and Udan Vayu. Prashanna Upanishad says at the time of death, the Chandok and Prashanna Upanishad, they say at the time of death, Vak Vritti merges with Mano Vritti, merges with Pran, merges with Tej, and becomes Sat. And clarified by Prashanna Upanishad as Pranavayu at the time of death merges with Udan Vayu and leaves the body. So they talk about 2 Vayu, which is not understood in modern medicine, but in today's era, we are finding a condition called silent hypoxia, where the patient is anoxing, but he is conscious. And we have no answer for that. People say maybe because of carbon dioxide washout. But if I take Ayurvedic philosophy into concern, that COVID is affecting Pranavayu and sparing the Udan Vayu. Therefore, the consciousness is maintained. So for the first time, there is a symbiosis between Ayurvedic philosophy and modern medicine. People can look into that. So therefore, there is an involvement of Pranavayu and no involvement of Udan Vayu. It is involving Saman Vayu, Vyan Vayu, and Apan Vayu. Then when we comes to the Pitta, which is metabolism, it is involving Ranjak Pitta, which is involving the liver and gallbladder. It is involving Pachak Pitta, it is causing nausea, vomiting, and gastritis. It is involving Sadhak Pitta because it is causing inflammation of the heart. It is causing involvement of Alochak Pitta because it is causing myocarditis and the eye, pinky eye involvement, and it is causing Bhrajak Pitta because it is involving the secretions of the body and the stomach everywhere. Now, when it comes to the kapha or the secretions part, COVID is causing involvement of tongue. So therefore, we know Kledak kapha is involved. It is causing involvement of the chest. We know Avalambak kapha is involved. We know it is involving the tongue and loss of taste. So Bothak kapha is involved. It is involving the CSF and encephalitis. We know Tarpak kapha is involved. And it is sparing the Shleshak kapha, which is the field of Dr. Arvind Chopra. It is not causing joint effusions. So it is sparing certain parts of Ayurvedic philosophy. Now, in terms of virus, this virus is a wet virus. So this is a kapha virus. This virus, once it comes out in the surface, cannot multiply, cannot run, cannot fly, cannot move. Therefore, it has 0 Vat into it. Therefore, it is predominantly a kapha virus. Therefore, it has to enter through a kapha area in my body. So therefore, it identifies the mouth and the nose and the mucous membrane, which are secretory. So once it enters into my body as a kapha virus, it goes, attacks the throat and starts multiplying. That means now it starts a Vat activity. So Vat activity starts in my throat. And from there, it enters the lungs, it damages the blood vessel, causes inflammation, and then pitta aggravation comes. So therefore, this virus basically starts with a kapha virus, causes vata aggravation in my throat, and causes pitta inflammation in my alveoli. If that's so, that now it's my theory. If that's so, anything which is drying, should dry the virus. Anything which is drying should dry the virus. And if you take something which dries the virus and reduces the secretions in the body, we should be able to affect the virus. There are 3 tastes according to Ayurveda which dries my body, which are used in obesity, and they are bitter, astringent, and pungent. Bitter is green and kadwa, so therefore we say methi, we says you take karela, you take methi, anything which is green and bitter except peas, they are drying, so therefore anti-obesity. Then we say anything which is astringent. Astringent is kasela, and this is haldi. It is comes back is rajma, dale. All these are kasela, shalgam, pyaj, lasan. They are all kasela. So therefore they are drying. And then comes his pungent, which is tikha, which is kali mirach, lal mirach, and hari mirach. So therefore, combination of these 3, if I take it as a preventive, it will not allow my body to have hyper secretion. Therefore, my virus may not be allowed to cultivate. In that situation, ashwagandha, which is both a bitter and pungent with little bit of astringent, makes a perfect combination. With that, if I add haldi, which is more astringent than bitter, so haldi and ashwagandha together will make a perfect combination for prevention of corona. And when it enters my body and it causes vata aggravation, I need some sweet and sour. Therefore, avla and chavanprash at that particular moment, if I add gulukan, anything which is sweet, not chini, it will. So therefore, a combination of bitter, astringent, and pungent as a prevention. And then when a person acquires cough, I add little bit herbs which have a sweet taste and little bit of a sour taste, and they may be able to help. From that point of view, with that theory, ashwagandha fits. Ashwagandha and haldi combination fits. Haldi as anti-inflammatory, so it reduces pitta. It will reduce my inflammation in my stomach, in my alveoli. And when it comes to ashwagandha, it will help both. It has, both of them have an anti-tumor effect. So they will reduce multiplication because both of them have a TNF blocker-like action from allopathic point of view. So therefore, both of them are anti-inflammatory. Ashwagandha is also having an anti-tumor effect. So this will not allow multiplication of the virus. Ashwagandha will have anti-inflammatory, therefore it will have an effect like HCQS, hydroxychloroquine. It will have an effect of hydroxychloroquine. If I add into it any blood thinner, into it, which is either lasan or pyaj or a natural blood thinner, a combination of the 3 should be tried in milder cases of COVID, that we pick up 10 cases of COVID, milder where they are not in ICU. We give them this combination and do their viral profile before and in 10 days. And if we can demonstrate that in 10 days their viral load reduces, both of you are on for a Nobel Prize. I think this is the best opportunity for Ayurveda to show that Ayurvedic principle works. From the Vedic principle point of view, this combination is a perfect combination to be tried. Now, if you want to try it the allopathic way is a different issue, because in Ayurveda, when we come to Ved, there are 6 types of praman. One is, we say, so the first praman is Pratyaksh, which is a case study that I saw it myself. Second is Anuman, which is your double blind study. Third is Upaman, which basically talks about the logic, which I am talking about, the logic. Green, bitter, this is Upaman. Then Arthapati, Anuplabdhi, and Shabd, which basically talks about a story of negation, the story of circumstantial evidence, and what is written in the picture. So from logic point of view, from Upaman point of view, it makes sense. Then we can shift from Upaman to Anuman and we don't have to go to a double blind study in a pandemic. We can take 10 cases with it, 10 cases without it, and if we can see early clearance of the virus, we can create wonders. Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan and Dr. Atul Chopra.
Thank you, Dr. Agarwal. It was like music to hear, I must tell you, the way in which you explained the whole thing, the Ayurvedic basis and the logic, and combining the dosha and guna together, the way you explained, I think ashwagandha, turmeric, and lasan really makes a very good sense for COVID. I will add just little bit on ashwagandha because this webinar focus is on ashwagandha. Ashwagandha, I started working on ashwagandha in 1990. In 1990, one of my master student who was doing MPharm with me, that we observed that when we give ashwagandha to experimental animals, there was consistent increase in antibody titer. This was our first observation, and then we thought that it is giving some kind of a immunostimulation. And this was very early in 1990s. We also decided that we should compare ashwagandha with something parallel, which is called an adaptogenic activity. At that time, ginseng was on the top. So we took ginseng for comparison, and we showed that ashwagandha and ginseng comparison, pharmacologically, ashwagandha was shown to be better drug than ginseng. Because ashwagandha, in addition to immunomodulatory activity, it had anti-inflammatory activity also. And therefore, we published that work in Journal of Ethnopharmacology, which also is very highly cited paper, in which we showed ashwagandha is a better drug than ginseng. We showed that ashwagandha has immunostimulatory activity. And then later on, we also showed that ashwagandha has various types of chemical compounds. Some of them are immunostimulants. Some of them are immunosuppressants also, because ashwagandha, part of it also can be given in over stimulation of immune system, such as in asthma. Ashwagandha is also given where you need certain suppression also. So then we said that ashwagandha is an immune modulator, and our body can take a call whether you require immune stimulation or immune modulation. That was 1996. At that time, we started talking to Serum Institute of India, Pune. Serum Institute of India, Pune, as you know, is the largest vaccine manufacturer. And we showed them our data. We showed them that, look, ashwagandha is selectively stimulating immunity. Antibody titers are better. So can we use this activity to improve vaccine efficacy, to increase vaccine production? So this was one of, because if it is antibody production is going to be more, so they got interested in it. So we took a experiment with them, and we showed that ashwagandha did act as immunoadjuvant. And then Department of Science and Technology gave us a major funding, and which we showed that ashwagandha can be used as a very, very effective immunostimulant and immunoadjuvant. That work has now led to ashwagandha use of ashwagandha as vaccine adjuvant, and that project with Serum Institute is still continuing. We are doing a similar kind of a trial of ashwagandha on vaccine adjuvant with help of other institutes, including National Institute of Cancer in US, as well as Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Research Center in the US, where Memorial Sloan Kettering have developed a breast cancer vaccine wherein ashwagandha based adjuvant is getting tried for improving the efficacy of that vaccine. And all this, what does ashwagandha makes for COVID? In addition to what you have beautifully explained, I will say that two or three things which are very, very important in ashwagandha. First is ashwagandha has effect to improve B cell activity as well as T cell activity. This is very unique. In T cell activity, ashwagandha has a very specific activity. We have shown that ashwagandha is selective Th1 upregulator. And as you know, Th1 plays important role in COVID as well, in the early stage of COVID. So if you want to really prevent a person getting progressed into advanced stage leading to cytokine storm, in early phase, if we are able to use ashwagandha, we will be able to reduce that kind of a burden drastically. And that's what Dr. Chopra's trial is aiming at, and we are going to compare it with ashwagandha, what trial we have used. So selective TH1 upregulation. Not only that, we showed that ashwagandha has a unique quality of balancing TH1 and TH2 response, which helps in modulating the cytokine storm kind of a condition. And as you know, TH1 TH2 balance, which we call it as immune homeostasis, is one of the important requirement for the immune therapeutics, in which we have also shown that ashwagandha selectively downregulates TNF alpha, it selectively downregulates IL-1 beta, and it selectively downregulates IL-6. All this, if we put together, you will see that there is a very, very strong case for ashwagandha for its use in COVID. And after telling all this, when I combine what Dr. Agarwal told us, adding turmeric and adding lasan, for blood thinning activity, because that also is one of the very important requirements. I think we are really talking about a very innovative kind of approach, and this approach is going to help definitely, if at all, it will not cause harm.
So thank you,
Over to
Dr.
Dr. Chopra, so that he may like to add
I'll come back.
something to what I just said.
No, Arvind, I'll come back, but let me just simplify for audience, general public who is watching this program. Somebody has asked a question: is it a medicine arising from horses? The answer is no. Ashwagandha is a plant. In Vedic sciences, the word Ashwa basically comes from Ashwamegha Yagya. Ashwa basically means horses, it means senses. So you have 5 horses, you have Dasharath, means the person who has controlled his 10 senses. So the word Ashwa basically comes from Vedic sciences. It has nothing to do, it's a mythological significance. So remember, it has no origin, it's not an animal source, there is no origin, because a couple of people were confused here that Ashwa means it comes from the horses. No, it's a plant, and it's a plant grown. Even in my garden outside my home, there is enough ashwagandha being growing there. Number 2 is what Dr. Patwardhan has said about 2 things, which I want to make it further simplify. So when we talk about a virus and when we talk about a vaccine, there are multiple ways of creating a vaccine. One way is I use the virus attenuated by anything so that it becomes a attenuated virus. It's not dead, it's not alive, but it is functionless. Second is I kill the virus and use it as a vaccine. Third is I take the fragments of the vaccine, I take the RNA of the vaccine and use it as an antigen. Or I can use that RNA, I manufacture it artificially, it becomes a messenger RNA. Or I take the envelope or the membrane of the virus or the spike of the virus and use it as an antigen. Or I take the spike of this virus and put it on the another virus called chimp adenovirus, and I make another vaccine which is Oxford company is making. Or I can use a spike of this virus and add something into it to increase its antigenicity. These are called conjugate vaccines. So ashwagandha can become a conjugate vaccine. That means if I give ashwagandha with any other vaccine, it will potentiate, accentuate the action of that vaccine. That's one. Number 2 is there is also a innate vaccine, innate immunity. So if there is a thief or a dacoit entering into your colony, before the police comes, which are antibodies, you use your personal security. And that strength of personal security is called as innate immunity. Ashwagandha increases that. That means your body's personal security, which is non-specific. For them, doesn't matter who is the dacoit, whether he's coming with AK-47 or he is coming with a knife, whether he's coming with a sword. This is a natural, generalized, innate immunity, which is increases by ashwagandha. So therefore, ashwagandha group of drugs, which are called immunostimulants, They don't increase specific IgG, IgM, COVID-like immunity, but they will give you a general immunity, which has the same action which we are doing with plasma therapy. In simplified word, ashwagandha does the same job what we are talking about a plasma therapy which is doing. And then when this antigen comes in our body, this virus is behaving virtually differently. This virus is behaving like a virus. In 80% of cases, it becomes all right. In some cases, it is behaving like HIV. So it reduces CD4 cell count, it reduces lymphocytes. Therefore, ashwagandha has a role there. It has a CD4 count effect. Therefore, if that complication comes where the person has fever and his CD4 cell counts is low, ashwagandha can be effective in that particular situation. Then this is causing hyperimmune inflammation, rising ESR, CRP, and ferritin, because it has a anti-inflammatory effect, a TNF blocker-like effect, an IL-6 inhibitor-like effect. Therefore, it will have effect and those complications also. This is also causing, COVID is also causing thromboinflammation, that inflammation-induced thrombosis with rise in D-dimer and fibrinogen. Therefore, if we add aspirin-like drug, which is piyaj or lasan, it will definitely potentiate its action. It is also causing cellular hypoxia. For that, we need an oxygen. Ashwagandha cannot give you an oxygen, but you can sit in that garden where ashwagandha is, then you may get some natural oxygen, but not an artificial oxygen. And it is causing cytokine crisis, which means there is acute rise in immune system in the body, which is equivalent to that when your own security, while killing the dacoits, also kill people living in that particular house, is a cytokine crisis. Therefore, ashwagandha, you should be able to, ashwagandha means ashwagandha property like herbs. Ashwagandha is one of them. We should be able to prevent because this is bitter and it is drying. With that, if we add turmeric, it becomes more astringent, anti-inflammatory, and by adding into it anything which is a anti-platelet agent, I think we should be able to work on all aspects of all complications of COVID. So therefore, worth trying, worth taking it, and there a lot of people started talking about ashwagandha in last couple of weeks. So I think a systemic study should be done, and it can be a game changer in the whole world. Dr. Chopra, you have to unmute yourself.
Arvind, you have to unmute, Arvind. You have to unmute.
Arvind ji, you are absolutely asymptomatic. Kindly become symptomatic in COVID language.
So, thank you very much. I think when I became unmute, I lost my image. So I get both back. So thank you very much. I think you heard elegant narration. I just want to make a few comments, maybe if nothing else, but to assure my friends, both in the community and elsewhere, the large majority of people who contract SARS-CoV-2 infection are going to recover completely. Many of them are asymptomatic, but they can spread the virus. I think what's important to remember from my immunology concept is that most of the patients or those who suffer from COVID-19, they will only have the invasive phase of the virus, that is the virus invasion. The initial part of COVID-19 is like any other viral illness, which you need innate immunity that Dr. Agarwal referred to. You need gamma interferon kind of a outburst to fight the virus, and you need an initial immune antibody response. It's only in a very few patients. We don't know why. Why do few patients, maybe less than 20%, progress to so-called moderately severe stage, a bad pneumonia, and multi-organ dysfunction with thromboembolic phenomenon? That's the stage, perhaps, where the immune system, which is supposed to protect us, which is doing its job, suddenly becomes exuberant, disorganized, chaotic. And that's what we were talking about, cytokine storm. That is where, right in the beginning, Dr. Agarwal sir made a a very provocative statement that it's like an acute autoimmune disorder. The acute autoimmune disorder perhaps comes into play in a small number of patients when they actually go beyond the so-called control of the viral invasive phase. It's in that particular time period where the body is flooded with cytokines, where all the cells are hyperregulated, where both CD8 counts go up. There are many abnormalities which I won't talk about, but that's where the immunology plays a big role. How to calm down the immune system, how to sort of calm down the cytokines. So my next comment is that ashwagandha is likely to behave differently in a pre-exposure situation and differently in a post-exposure situation. I've been often asked that if ashwagandha is an immune-enhancing drug, doctors should be use it when patients of COVID-19 become severe, because that's a situation in severe where everything is burning, the entire immune regulation has gone haywire. That is where I think what Bhushan said, where there's a lot of data to show that basically ashwagandha is not simply an immune enhancer. For some interesting reasons for which we do not have enough data, is the immune modulator. It can take up the Th1, it can take down the Th1, work on Th2. So a lot of data from different sources telling us that it can douse the fire, whether we are dealing with acute infectious stage or a post-infectious stage or an autoimmune disorder like rheumatoid arthritis. I presented my data. Now, COVID-19 and rheumatoid arthritis are very, very different disorders. It's only that immune dysregulation where you need immunomodulators, where rheumatoid arthritis comes to play. There's so many drugs which are using for rheumatoid arthritis like hydroxychloroquine, tocilizumab, JAK2 inhibitors, so many of them which are being tried in that small percentage of patients of COVID-19 who become severe on the premise that you need to dampen the immune response. So in this background, there's no doubt that ashwagandha has a very critical role to evaluate. We still need a lot of data. We need data. There is some very recent data, very soft data I would call, from in silico studies by elegant experiments saying that ashwagandha could be antiviral. Ashwagandha perhaps may even block the docking of the virus to the ACE receptor. But all this has to be seen. At the moment, I think ashwagandha is a great drug to work on the immune system, immune enhancer, immune modulator, immune suppressant. As you heard, it can be anti-tumor. So let me stop here by saying, yes, we need to do studies, and I'm very glad to share with you at this point of time. Bhushan and myself, we are involved with the Ministry of Ayush, along with Ministry of Health and Family Welfare, CSR, with technical support from CSR. We have planned, designed, in fact, the studies have begun looking at the role of ashwagandha as a prophylactic agent in high-risk individuals of COVID-19. Also, other people like positive, also healthy contacts of COVID-19. There are many different sort of populations where ashwagandha is going to be used. We already begun those studies in more than now, I think 15 centers, Girish. There are 15 centers. Dr. Girish is sitting with me, my co-author, who is Ayurvedic of eminence. So yes, we are going to look at ashwagandha over a 3-month period. We are not only going to look on ashwagandha's protective effect, not only at pre-exposure, post-exposure, something like antiviral. It's not really antiviral at the moment, though we are comparing with hydroxychloroquine in a randomized study as well. What we need to also look is that many of these people who work in COVID-19 management are doctors, nurses. They work in very stressful environment. They suffer from many physical and mental problems because of the nature of the work. So in this 3 months, we also want to show that ashwagandha not only will protect them from COVID-19, but will also promote health, will also affect their mind in a positive manner, will increase their fitness, will also look at the other issues that are important for daily living, good health. So those are studies for ashwagandha. I need not go into the treatment studies where many Ayurvedic formulations are tried. We have got an add-on kind of a protocol where the role of Ayurvedic drugs along with standard of care versus standard care is being looked on 3 months. So I hope that after about 5 to 6 months, these are bad times, desperate times requiring desperate measures. As Dr. Agarwal and Bhushan both said, it's a great opportunity. I know this opportunity. I think Ayurveda deserves to be in the forefront of research. Research is an important part of epidemic. And after 5-6 months, hopefully, we'll come back to with many answers on the role of ashwagandha and other Ayurvedic combinations in both the prophylaxis and treatment of COVID-19.
Thank you. I'll pick up some questions which are coming. Is it safe for all age groups? Ashwagandha, I'm doing rapid fire. Please, anybody can answer because I'm reading the questions. I'm in the frame from the computer, but I'm not being able to see your reactions. Can ashwagandha be given in pregnancy?
Yes.
Yes. Is ashwagandha can be given to all ages?
Yes.
Yes.
Does it enhance cell-mediated immunity? He has already spoken about CD count.
Yes.
Can it be
Yes.
used as an anti-COVID agent? Yes. Can asymptomatic patients spread virus to other people? Yes. Is India at peak? The various sections are in different phases. Delhi and Bombay are going to peak first. Then mode of action of ashwagandha in immunity compromised person.
We have not used it in immunocompromised states like HIV, for example, or on severe immunosuppression, but we can extrapolate evidence from rheumatoid arthritis disorders, sir, where there is a certain amount of immune suppression. But I don't have hardcore data to answer that question. I think it can be used.
So ashwagandha. See, basically, there was a time when we used to talk about Chavanprash. I'm talking about long time back. In Chavanprash, we used to say that, for example, when to give a chemotherapy, and we said chemotherapy should not be given at a time when there is a vata period in the body, because at that time normal cells are also multiplying, and if you give chemotherapy at that time, it will also kill the normal cells. So therefore, we also always used to say give the chemotherapy at a kapha time, which is 6 to 10 in the morning and 6 to 10 in the evening, when your normal cells are less multiplying. And at that particular moment, if you give a chemotherapy, there will be less cell damage. So similarly, there is an adjunct use of, and their role of this Chavanprash came, that if you give Chavanprash, the toxicity becomes less. So therefore, there is a lot of scope of using herbal drugs as an adjuvant to reduce the dose of antibiotics, duration of antibiotics, toxicity of antibiotics, etc., etc., etc. So even
Yeah,
if
Dr.
you
Agarwal,
can,
Dr. Agarwal, we have shown that in a model wherein we actually create immunosuppression by giving drugs like cyclophosphamide, ashwagandha is able to recover the myelotoxicity which happens due to cytotoxic drugs. We are able to counter that with ashwagandha. We have enough data. Lot of data has been done with cyclophosphamide immune suppression model. So myelosuppression countering that. So the answer to your earlier question is yes, definitely it can be used.
so let us forget about ashwagandha only as an Indian ginseng, because when you use, most of the people think that ashwagandha means ashwa means ghoda, means power, means sexual health. That's how it is more promoted in the community, that if you need sexual potency like a ghoda, you use ashwagandha. That's what, because they say that the smell of ghoda is for his mating. Therefore, this drug basically helps you in mating and it increases your sexual power. And therefore, ginseng was popularized as a sexual medicine. So therefore, they started using, this is an Indian ginseng. But now the time is in the COVID era, because there is only one drug which has 100% awareness in every house today, and that is called hydroxychloroquine. So therefore, just to make it powerful and popular all over the world, we should say this is Indian hydroxychloroquine, because you are comparing it with hydroxychloroquine. It is a replacement of hydroxychloroquine, or it can be add-on to hydroxychloroquine, maybe, that you may get a better effect, because both of them are being used prophylactically. Both of them are being used for anti-inflammatory action. Some studies are showing that hydroxychloroquine is not working because they are not taking cases with inflammation there. So you will have
Sir,
to see which
it is
complications
safer
and
than hydroxychloroquine. Sorry, sir. It is safer than hydroxychloroquine, and the evidence for hydroxychloroquine is
has to
still
be safer. But I'm trying to say that you can even combine them if you want. I said chloroquine doesn't mean only a modern medicine chloroquine. We have a Syncona plant in Ayurveda,
hydroxychloroquine.
the origin of that. So if you can, I will say that it is better than Syncona even. Then I am talking Ayurveda to Ayurveda. because the hydroxychloroquine is nothing but a refined form of cinchona plant. Cinchona plant is also available in homeopathy. I've seen all the questions. It's very impossible to see. There are 400 questions which we have come.
My God.
So I have seen most of the questions covers what we have spoken, and let me see if I can get few more questions if I find out. In the meantime, how is ashwagandha different and more effective than other modulators?
Actually, there is no different or more ashwagandha. Like ashwagandha, there are several other Ayurvedic rasayana. For example, guduchi or what is called as Stenospora cordifolia is also equally good medicine, which is also known immunomodulator. The advantage of ashwagandha is it has a very strong anti-inflammatory activity, which makes it a better drug. Otherwise, there are several immunomodulators in Ayurveda, which are generally classified under rasayana dravyas.
So let me again explain to people when we talk about this language. So in Ayurveda, we have, when we talk about our vitamins, our tonics, Ayurveda calls them as their rasayanas. So when we say give a multivitamin, we say give a nutritional supplement. So rasayanas are equivalent to modern medicine, vitamins. So therefore both are same. And they use a drug called Chavanprash, which is a combination of 40, because some or other Ayurveda believes in polypharmacy on all 7 colors and 6 stays. Any food which has all the 7 colors and 6 stays, they say that's their normal multivitamin tablet. So therefore, Ayurvedic rasayanas and modern vitamins can be combined together. They are harmless. That's one. Number two is most of the people say that Ayurvedic drugs contain bhasma. That's wrong. Remember one thing, there are two types of philosophies. Bhasma basically means when you convert a matter into non-matter. And if there is a matter in that bhasma, that is adulterated bhasma. So therefore, and number two. Number three is when we are talking about ashwagandha, we are not talking about the bhasma. Even if you use bhasma in certain Ayurvedic preparations, they are as safe as any other thing. That's an Ayurvedic principle with that. But here we are talking about more like a rasayana, more like a tonic. But this rasayana is more like a tonic because this is anti-tumor, it is anti-inflammatory, and it is immunomodulatory with that. So if we see if there are some more questions. I think most of the questions relates to the same thing again and again. So people are saying the last question I'm going to ask before we sum up and or we discuss amongst each other is how to give ashwagandha. How do I take ashwagandha? At least 60 people have asked, how do I take it? Where it is available? In what format it is available? Is it made the Ayurvedic way? Is it made the allopathic way? Should I prepare it myself from the plant or should I take a ready-made ashwagandha? And if I want to combine it with haldi, how do I take it?
So it's simple. Ashwagandha you have to procure from an authentic source. Ashwagandha is a plant under cultivation, and it is known that CSIR had a very major project in which they have shown that ashwagandha grown in a particular region such as Nagori near Ashwagandha, near Rajasthan, Nagori ashwagandha is considered to be one of the best. But ashwagandha, standardized ashwagandha you get in the market, and good companies with quality control data which they give, that here are the chemical constituents of ashwagandha. They many of them give the herbo print also, the HPLC profile and all that quality control data. So quality controlled ashwagandha available in the market you can take, or you can purchase ashwagandha roots from the market from authentic source again, because there could be adulteration also if you don't take it from good sources, and you can powder them yourself and use that churna as a fresh ashwagandha churna. You can take ashwagandha by combining with turmeric or whatever you want to do it yourself, or there are some combinations also available in the market, but for that purpose you have to consult Ayurvedic Vaidya. You should not take this as self-medication when you are combining and you are taking it for specific purposes, because the dose of ashwagandha, which is required for a particular condition, it is best to take advice of Ayurvedic Vaidya for this purpose.
And then what part of ashwagandha plant is used? It's the root and the... Can I take
only root? Ashwagandha is only roots of ashwagandha are used. Dried roots powder of ashwagandha, either in tablet or in powder form or in syrup form, whatever you want to make dosage form, you can do that. You can also make mix it with some kind of a grita also. There is possible. So various kind of forms we can use, but the best and most popular form of ashwagandha is churna in form of tablet is normally used.
But Bhushan,
can I combine it with Giloy? Can I combine it
must be under medical supervision.
Pardon?
Can I combine it with Giloy?
Rasayanas should be under an Ayurvedic physician supervision. I think what you said, that's important. That
Yeah,
you can
they have to be under the advice of Ayurvedic Vaidya. Yes.
I think that people must remember that for therapeutic, please consult an Ayurvedic physician.
Arvind, in I think Girish is just sitting next to you. Can we ask Girish, because we should have Ayurvedic Vaidya, authentic Ayurvedic Vaidya, to give you authentic information, So here is Dr. Girish Chillu, who is Ayurvedic Vaidya, because none of us are Ayurvedic Vaidyas. So let that information come from the Ayurvedic Vaidya. Girish, please. I'm sorry, Dr. Agarwal, I'm taking this liberty.
Girish ji, how are you?
Namaste.
Ayurvedic pranam aapko.
Namaskar. So
Ayurvedic pranam.
नमस्कार.
तो आयुर्वेद में अगर हमारे को रसायन देना है, first of all, when it comes to COVID, suppose in COVID, is there any role of panchakarma? If yes, which karma?
Actually, in disease state, panchakarma is generally avoided, but panchakarma, many of the simple panchakarma.
What about Nasya and Shirodhara? What about Nasya and Shirodhara?
Nasya or Kabala Gandush or oil pulling or gargling, they are very effective for say strengthening immunity, locus, and preventing. They may be preventing virus entry. So this panchakarma.
So if I want to ask my people to use Nasya, where they take a drop of oil and they lubricate their nose. I'm not talking about the oil therapy, which is used for sinus. If they use a simple Nasya to lubricate their nose, which oil they should use? Is it a dosha specific or a general non-specific oil?
Generally, sesame oil or coconut oil is best. However, there are other medicated oils too. For example, Anu Tel or Panchendriya Vardhan Tel they can use.
So Anu Tel is the one we use basically for Nasya. So Nasya can be used. Then Shirodhara is something for acute anxiety. Somebody who is in acute anxiety, you can use a Shirodhara for that particular thing. And other types of therapies, Panchakarma at the moment will be avoided, because I don't think so you will go to Vaman Virechan or Vasti at this particular moment. When it comes to Ayurvedic Rasayanas, can they be combined with modern medicine Rasayanas? That means if I want to...
Yes, I think many of the Ayurvedic Rasayanas or Ayurvedic botanicals, they are safe and they can be used generally by everyone.
Okay, so Rasayanas, whether they are Ayurvedic, whether they are antioxidants, the best antioxidant in Rasayanas is Chavanprash, which has a combination of practically everything, which contains Avla. And now again, I want to ask one question, Girish, to you is before I finish. When we talk about this disorder, we call them as this is Tridosha. because it involves both kapha, vata, and pitta. And most of the time it is sadhya. In some situation, it becomes asadhya. So when it is a tridosha, then the predominant role of a tridoshic medicines, one of them is amla, which affects on tridosha. Do you feel that ashwagandha also is a tridosha drug?
Yes, and ashwagandha also, as Dr. Patwardhan said, guruchi is also one of the botanicals which affects, which uh, controls all these three doshas.
Dear colleague who are watching this program, I think it was a wonderful interaction where we had an Ayurved, a modern medicine researching into Ayurveda, and a biochemistry background researcher, and myself, KK Agarwal, who is basically a hardcore modern medicine doctor, but a student of Vedic medicine. And I try to interpret and teach Ayurveda in modern medicine language. I think it makes sense. It's a time the coronavirus is new. It is in nobody's domain. Everybody can claim their results. It is the best time for Ayurveda to show to their world that our natural compounds are much more safer than a modern medicine drug, for which we don't have to go into deep into the double-blind studies. Even if we go into the philosophy of Pratyaksh, which is case studies, and then we have Upaman, which is analogy. Based on that, if we do observational studies, let the West do double-blind studies, let's do observational studies, publish them. And instead of waiting for 200 cases, we follow the principle of Intel. The Intel principle is Pentium 2, Pentium 4, Pentium 6, Pentium 10. So if you have 10 cases, publish. When it becomes 20, again publish. When it becomes 30, again publish. Don't wait them for 200 to publish. You get an opportunity to talk to the media and the newspapers 20 times by the time you reach to 200 cases. So therefore, all the people who are interested in a compound like ashwagandha, if you have any result, kindly share with any one of us. We'll be happy to collaborate with you. And Dr. Bhushan and Dr. Arvind, if you need any time in any seminar, if you need any help where I can help you out for a cause, I'm always there. And with folded Ayurvedic namaskar to all three of you, myself, Dr. K.K. Agarwal, say thank you to Dr. Bhushan Patwardhan. Bhushan ji is a Shakti sound. The sound Bhushana is a Shakti sound. So therefore, whenever you are calling Bhushan, speak softly, because when you speak Bhushan, the virus will go to 6 feet. But when you say Arvind, the virus will stay at 3 feet because he is a Shanti sound. So therefore, always remember, even Swar Yoga has a role in prevention of Ayurveda. So live happy, stay healthy, keep your all indriyas healthy under control. And for Indriya, remember the word Ashwa. And Gandh, you remember that in COVID, the Gandh goes away. You have an altered Gandh, which is the smell. So you will remember the word that if I need to control, if I have to remember an Ayurvedic, herbal, natural antioxidant. Yes, Ayurveda people says ashwagandha is the Indian ginseng. It is the Indian hydroxychloroquine. It has anti-cholesterol effect. It has anti-inflammatory effect. It has an anti-tumor effect. See you again. Again, sometimes we will again see you. So, dear my friends watching the program at Facebook, YouTube, MedTalk, and everybody in the country, thank you very much. Thank you, Himalaya, for giving this opportunity for all three of us, all four of us to interact. Thank you. Stay healthy, stay corona free.
Thank you.
And Dr. Agarwal, normally organizers thank the speakers, but this time we want to thank you because we really enjoyed interaction with you, and your explanation of Ayurveda was really amazing. I really enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.